Good evening. I'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. Notice is hereby given of a workshop of the Board of Directors of the District to be held at 105 Port Road, Port Isabel, Texas, on the first day of April 2019 at the hour of 5:30 p.m. for consideration of the business of the agenda below. This notice is posted at the office of the district on March 27, 2019 at 6:45 p.m. in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551-041-551-050. We do have the presence of a quorum. Absent at this time, we have Board Member Alex Avalos and Board Member Jason Starkey. If we could please have everyone stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and all its blessings. Keep us ever mindful of our responsibility to serve our community. Bless us with wisdom and guide us in our decisions so that we may be better stewards of your gifts. We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Moving on to 3, consider and discuss water plant number 1 improvements. Charles?
Right. Yeah, I guess I just have this one-page backup so I can maybe just read it off real quick.
Yes.
Where the district recognizes that water plant number 1, located in Port Isabel, as an age facility that cannot produce the water quality to the standard that can be achieved at water plant 2. And so the goal is to upgrade the facility from the 2.9 million gallons per day to 5 MGD by replacing the existing filters with hollow fiber microfiltration membranes, similar to the process in place there at water plant 2 in Laguna Vista. And so in addition to just simply doing the filter upgrade, we need to look at rebuilding the clarifier basin number 1. The large clarifier has a capacity of 4 MGD and requires full construction. And also a ground storage tank B, the larger one there, has a volume of 783,000 gallons. And the annual inspection of that one shows that it needs major rehab. But we may want to also look at considering doing a replacement at this stage for that ground storage tank. And then just for the disinfection plan, we want to add chlorine dioxide just to have a stronger disinfectant and prevent the formation of THMs there at that facility. And so that's basically the scope of the extent of the project that we've been looking at to pursue on this bond election. And I guess the other part is just if we want to consider any of the other options at this stage as far as seawater for Proposition 2 or looking at reclaimed water, and trying to take that element into consideration.
We already have seawater available if we choose it.
Right.
Can you explain why we need to do this?
Oh, just the plant itself. I mean, we're stressing out water plant 2 really hard. Mm-hmm. So I mean,
Can you explain that? What does that mean?
Well, basically,
it?
like as far as the the plant has a capacity of 8 MGD, but with its cleaning procedures, I mean, you can probably push it really at 6.5 and 7. Mm-hmm. And in the summer, our demand is right around 7 MGD, 6.5. Mm-hmm. So we're having to essentially run that plant at 100% capacity for all practical purposes to meet the peak demand in our system.
Okay.
And so
our peak demand is what?
It's around 7.2. That'll hit on July 4th.
And we hit that in the summer.
Yeah.
What's like the average we run in the summer? Do you know?
Oh, maybe around 4 or 5 MGD
in the summer?
Yeah.
Around 5 MGD.
Yeah.
Have we ever done projections on what we think the average will be in, say, like 5 years from now? I don't know. Maybe those reports have been done before I was here.
Yeah, I mean the growth is
1.5%.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we don't have much growth on it. I mean essentially water plant 2 meets our capacity needs. I mean the water plant 1 we want to bring it online just to have that redundancy or that backup for when we need to be taking one system offline and bringing the other one back. Mm-hmm. I mean I think there's one of the triggers on our drought contingency is when our production is above 48% of capacity. We want to that would be one of those triggers where you could raise the drought risk issues. And so, I mean, that could be one element to think about for the reason for getting water plant 1 up to speed.
Now, one thing you did not mention and you failed to mention is the fact that if we have to crank up plant number 1, it's not of the quality of plant number 2.
Correct.
And you'll definitely taste the difference in the water quality if that happens. So it's not just...
We'll be going backwards in delivery and product.
Sure. I've been here for workshops and I've heard it, but because this is a workshop just for this, I think it's important we get it out there so that we can explain to people why we actually need to spend the money to do this, other than just...
And one of the things that I wanted to also bring out is that we need to make some repairs over there at water plant number 2, and right now we cannot afford to turn off the water treatment plant. It's running 24/7.
And it's about 5 years into use.
It's
It's about 5 or 6 years into use.
Yeah,
Right now, since
2014,
2014,
December,
it's been
yeah.
running 24/7. We haven't been able to turn it off, maybe a few hours at the most. We need to make some repairs on a small water leak that we have on the main line, coming out of the, treated water that's being pumped out. There's a small leak there, and we can't turn it off because it will probably take all day to repair that small leak. We need to get the original contractor that installed those pipes. It's like a steel with concrete encasing on the outside. And am I correct on that?
Yeah,
It's
concrete
steel
pressure
casing,
pipe.
pressure pipe, and it's been there since 1985, so we're experiencing some small leaks on that pipeline. We've repaired a few already the past, when was the last time, like maybe before 5 years?
Yeah, we've been,
But anyhow, we need to actually work on it and make some repairs, but we can't afford to turn it off.
And
until-
it was paid for with bond money too at the
Correct.
time. So, I mean, there's some history I don't think that has been shared on some of this. That is important to share to bring up to speed too.
Charles, you want to break down more or less the estimate of the cost of these items?
oh, I mean, we haven't really
More or
done a
less,
takeoff.
just,
I mean, more or less, I mean, I'm, you know, the MF part of it, you know, where we at, 8.3 million, somewhere in there, in that range, based on some estimates that we did for water plant 2. And then the clarifier rebuild, I mean, maybe 750,000, I'm just kind of shooting from the hip. But, you know, it's I know the rehab for the ground storage tank was 400,000, but if we do a replacement, you know, we'd have to get cost estimates. I mean, the intent here is really just to get an engineer's report started up.
I know, but I'm
you know.
just asking in general.
It's like
Yeah.
350 to 400,000 to make the repairs on that storage tank, yes.
Yeah, I
Only
mean,
one.
if we're talking the water plant 1, doing the rehab at the MF, I mean, it's roughly another $10 million capital plan in that range.
So you think it's about probably at least 10 million
Yeah, I mean, when
to
we
get
include-
number 1 back online properly? If we needed it today, could we turn it on today?
Well, yeah, we could. We'd probably have to run a free chlorine. I mean, we're trying to rehab this clear well that has that cracked concrete. We're advertising. We're gonna open bids April 16th, and try to get that work done over the summer at some point.
You
But I
could
mean,
turn it
that's-
on, but you taste the difference.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not as high quality.
And if people complain about it now, just
There's more to it than just taste.
Smell.
Taste is a very big component, but you're dealing with a 1950s
technology.
infrastructure and technology, the first of the system.
If we turned it on, would the water it produced meet TCEQ standards?
I think it will.
What do you
At
think?
a low flow, I
What-
believe it will, but.
Yes, I
Come on, let us know. He's the manager, but
Yeah, we
at
can
a
get
low flow,
those in
it probably will, but.
Yeah, at a low flow, you're gonna meet TCQ standards.
Mhm.
However, you know, as Charles mentioned earlier, you're gonna have to pre-chlorine burn the system, and if, according to what we're producing right now at 3.5, we're not gonna make it. You know, the plant rate at 2.9, and you can run that with good enough numbers to pump it out. But if we're at 3.5, you're not gonna make it without doing a pre-chlorine burn,
Mhm.
and you don't wanna be feeding pre-chlorine for a prolonged period of time.
What does that mean?
It means that you're gonna produce your own THMs,
Okay.
which is something that we don't really wanna do.
Was that you knocking on wood? Is that what that was?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's that regulated disinfection byproduct. So
Right.
when you do free chlorine, well, there's no, with free chlorine, your
You're
THMs are gonna exceed that.
Right, you're gonna be producing them.
And you're unbalanced, you're basically.
What do we do? We throw a bunch of chlorine in the system
That's all we-
to kill everything?
that's
And then
all
we
we
try
do.
and take the chlorine back out?
Because what we do, no, we don't take it back out. We need a certain amount of chlorine to the system.
Okay.
So what we do in water plant 2 is we mix it with ammonia,
Mhm.
which makes chloramines, which reduces your disinfection byproduct.
Okay.
And with just free chlorine alone, you're creating, so,
And people then drink that chlorine?
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you know.
The chlorine is safe to drink, it's just the byproducts that it produces, trihalomethanes are not good.
Okay,
and long periods. So the other thing is that TCQ will only give you like between 15 and 30-day period to pre-coordinate the system, not more than that. So maybe for a month.
For a month.
But then the Helmet things will be real high.
do we have any info on any other water districts that have similar loads, and whether they have 2 fully functioning plants or just 1 fully functioning plant? Do we have any info on that? No, if not, since we're going to a water conference, could we maybe talk to somebody that does? These would just be good things to be able to explain to the public, hey, all the other water districts in the state that have similar situations have 2 fully functioning plants. We have 1. We're sort of behind the times, and that's what we need to show people, why we need to spend this money and do the bond, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Because I believe that City Bonneville has 2 water treatment plants and 3. I know that they have extra ones, like the brackish water, gum water, and then the other 3, yes. And then I believe Los Fresnos is the only one that doesn't have 2 water treatment plants.
Well, they
Right,
they
they
get theirs.
purchased from SRWA.
Yeah.
They get extra
Yeah,
ones.
and then you have Harlingen with 2, and, East Rio Hondo, and then Rio Hondo.
And they don't have the challenges of being right beside the coast with, all the problems that come with all the salt air we have and how that's a challenge on our systems, and it's increased cost for us to do business here because of that. So I just want to make sure, like, it's all out there, so somebody says, why the heck do you guys need a $10 million bond? Well, we got a list of talking points we can explain to them, the actual data behind why we're doing it.
And then it kind of benefits the whole district-wide because you'll have the backup available. And, if something happens at the other plant, you can get this one going.
Sure, I mean, you should, it's good to be able to rest one of our facilities a little bit, do cleaning, do what we need to do for it.
That's correct.
And without the second plant online, we're not able to do it. We're just running this one full-time, and if it goes, we're in a rough place, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just add something, if we're stressing that plan out constantly, those modules are not gonna last us as long as they're supposed to. You're gonna be pitting fibers, regularly, and then that's just an additional cost to be replacing, and if something happens there, you're done.
Yeah. So we have no redundancy right now.
We have redundancy, you just wouldn't like
It's
the
just-
taste of it.
Yeah, it's just not good. It's a
Right,
bad,
I
it's a
mean,
bad
there's-
option.
There's a better solution than what we have with having to pump out at water plant 1 is.
It's like using the old broken car in the
Yeah.
yard.
And as the years go on, our need for this only grows. So if we wait to do it, it's gonna be
Even
too
more.
late for it. So now's the time to do it when we still have a little bit of flexibility.
Right. I mean, like, as far as if we, move into this engineer's report to get ready for the bond proposal, I mean, that's what we
Yeah,
for the
if-
condition assessment. to
If
tie
it
down
was
costs.
paid for with a bond and the bond was elected, you're still 3 years out from breaking ground and
Right.
getting going. And, I mean, this is, the planning and the phase is 3+ years out.
It's not something any of us want to spend money on, but it's like, it looks like we have to spend money on it.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
either have a plant that's really not in working order or get the improvements in to meet the same quality that we already have at the other site.
And when we mention tax bonds, it's, I guess everybody pays for it, the whole district-wide, property owners. And the way it works is you can only pay tax bonds with tax money, and you can only get what you need, to pay the bonds. Right now, we have, I guess we have room for that, to utilize tax bonds.
General obligation bonds.
General obligation bonds, correct. And that's the only way that we're thinking of doing it this way. General obligation bonds to do it.
You can do it on revenue bonds, which means you can float them and they're paid for by revenue that's generated. And that costs more money on the rate side, or you can do it on the property side, which is the general obligation bond. They're being paid for the same. It's a question whether you charge the property owners or you charge the ratepayers. Everyone's paying for it. A revenue bond, you can do it without board consent. This board can vote for a revenue bond and make that happen. A general obligation bond requires taxpayers to vote for that, and it's attached to the property taxes and paid for that way.
Takes an election to
Yes.
get that one. Let the public know.
Typically, large infrastructure problems or infrastructure projects are paid for through general obligation bonds.
Are there other bonds we can get that do not require a vote?
No, they all require a vote.
Okay.
Just depends which way you want to go. A voter anticipated public vote is through general obligation, and you're taxing the property owners,
Mhm.
and that requires voter approval. Property owners, registered voters to approve that.
Right.
Revenue bond is we can borrow that money, but this board has to approve it and access. It's the same as just borrowing money is what it
We're
is.
just getting a loan.
You're just getting a loan.
Where do we get it from? Just the market?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Why
From a
would,
broker.
why do we want to do the general obligation bond versus the revenue bond?
Typically, on large infrastructure projects that are tied to the community, such as this, a $10 million project are typically financed through general obligation property bonds. It's an asset to the community and as long-term. Short-term financing is revenue bond financing, and typically for a 5 to 10-year project, you would do a revenue financing project, i.e. short-term financing, buying, I don't know, repairs of a building or something like that. That's typically the financing patterns.
Yeah, and then with revenue notes, you have to have that, your bond covenants.
Has to
like
be.
a debt service
Correct.
ratio. Yeah, you have to make sure you have enough money from your prior fiscal year.
It's the equivalent of borrowing it on a credit card, basically, and debt to ratio incomes and statements like that show it.
Yeah, like with
It's all the same, really, but it's just how you want to attach it and prioritize it. And revenue bonds.
Is the cost of
typically
is the cost of the money, getting a revenue bond higher, I assume, than
basically the same.
they are?
Generally, I mean, yes, there's more favored on a general obligation bond because the security of it is guaranteed. It
By
has
the
a
taxpayers.
better by taxpayers and ratepayers paying for it.
So we're getting that, so
Yeah,
that,
you can
the
usually
interest
get
is
a better
lower.
rate on the general obligation.
On the general obligation, it's a guaranteed deal for
Okay.
an investment banker.
What are the rates on a general obligation, like 3, or are they closer to 5? Or are they like 10? We're not
It's
sure.
hard to say. We're paying currently about 3%
That's
for
what I-
some of our,
that's what I
they're
thought.
not high interest.
But a revenue one is probably gonna be closer to like Lieber plus a couple percent, I would imagine. Closer to like a business loan, right?
Well, the one we just
No.
passed for this other work is a revenue bond, for the meters and whatnot.
What was it?
It was 3% too, I think,
Yeah,
2.5.
under 4.
The meters, the last meters was about 3%.
25, 3.25.
And that was a private placement, right? That was a
Yeah.
private placement?
Yes.
Mhm.
Rates were lower
And so
also
they
when you
should
guys
be-
passed that.
Mhm. General obligation should be lower than 3.
Okay, thanks.
I didn't mean to get off the topic, but it is important to kind of share how.
No, I appreciate that. Thanks, Scott.
No, we gotta, that's it for me.
Any other questions that y'all might have around the water treatment plant?
I mean, are we good with, I mean, I don't know, maybe, I should be go, I mean, as far as the scope of work, we're just gonna keep it to doing the rehab, what we need, and microfiltration, and not be thinking about any of the other aspects of the job at this stage for that bond collection, as far as, seawater or clean water.
No reuse, no sewer water.
That'll shoot it down, won't it?
I don't see any reason we need to.
Yeah.
We're running well on the one we have.
Well, yeah, I mean, and plus we've been buying those water rights, so that's really kind of what's keeping us in check with our diversions in the river.
The only reason we would is just as a second alternative source of water, but that's it. Right now, we got plenty of water, so I think we're okay for a few more years.
Our problem isn't how much water we have, right? The problem is how much we can treat. Is that right?
Right now,
Well,
it
how much
seems
we
to
can
be,
divert off the river, that's the limit,
Well-
during a drought.
in a drought, yes, but right now, we can't afford to utilize water treatment plant number 2. Sufficient water, yes.
Well, have you seen water rights become available, or I haven't seen anything out there or heard anything, and I kind of hear the chatter. I mean,
Not yet.
With water rights, well, no,
Yes.
just that last one that we just purchased, I
Yes.
mean, it's been, declared administratively complete this past week. And so it's going through technical review, so it's just one of those where you just buy it.
I mean, keep your eyes and ears open if you hear something. I think we should always be looking for additional water rights if they're favorable and affordable.
Yeah, but I think that's gonna be the approach rather than seeking an alternate water supply. For the time being, you can stick with that one.
So this gets passed, we're gonna make water plant facility 1 like 2.
Correct. Yes, sir.
All right. So what we walk through on our orientation, we're gonna create and rehabbing the water plant 1 that currently exists.
Yes.
Microfiltration, all of that jazz. Therefore,
We're gonna
doubling
make it,
our capacity to treat water, or?
pretty close to.
I heard
to
bulletin
4
points when I walked in from Adam, like, I would just want some talking
I mean, we're
points.
shooting for 5 MGD. That's gonna be the goal for getting that plant
Just
up to
think of
5 MGD.
refurbishing the old Oldsmobile in the garage.
Yeah.
And bringing it up to speed.
Like pulling the motor out,
Getting
putting a
everything
new
Yeah,
together.
motor
we're
in,
saying the details
Exactly.
to where, like.
which is
even
gonna
like
benefit
some of
us.
the
Like, what's the
We
sales
have a new
pitch?
Cadillac and driving right now, but you have the old Oldsmobile that needs to be a little refurbished and brought back up. It's not gonna be a Cadillac, but it's gonna be very,
And the message we're telling our taxpayers when they approach us at random times or call us, is this is needed because we are at maximum capacity with
been
our.
up to maximum capacity, operating at
Like this summer, I
80%
believe we're gonna be at
typically.
maximum.
And accounting for growth and Murphy's Law, we feel it's in the best interest to do this and take this course of action.
Even if a hurricane took that system out, you'd be, I mean, you have 2 totally different locations of water treatment, but if a hurricane took that one out, you would be without treatment facility. It's the same, I mean, there's a list of things that make it beneficial.
Yeah, and then plus with the high service pump stations at both sites, and really for that peak flow, you wanna have both being able to pump out and pressurize.
And growth, if you have a significant amount of growth in this area, I mean, and there's some stuff on the horizon, some potential growth coming. The demand, I mean, it would take us 3 years to get that project. If you started today and the bond issue was passed, it would take you a year and a half of planning, year and a half to build it. I mean, this is 3 to 5 years out before it's turnkey and open and get it going, type planning.
And we're all united with this, right? Like, no one has any major issues with this? I don't know, just
That's the reason we're here today.
hearsay,
Make sure
hearsay
we're
with
not
the
gonna
previous
go-
board is there was,
Make sure everybody's
we weren't
united
all on the
on
same
it and,
page.
Yeah.
we'll move forward on that.
because this is, I mean, I'm the layman guy here, plus I was late and I apologize about that, but there's nothing exotic getting thrown into this, right? Like, we're not, it's just this treatment plant. We're not trying to throw something else in on the back end or trying to turn salt water into fresh water or anything like that, right?
I mean, that's kind of where those options are there, but from what I.
But we don't want to exhaust them options because we really just want to focus on getting water treatment plant 1 up to specs as water treatment plant 2.
If you go out for bond and ask for voters to approve this, it has to be specified out exactly what the project is going to be done, how it's going to be financed, everything has to be spelled out.
No, I mean, I get that. I'm just saying, but our focus is that treatment
And that
facility.
would be a focus on proposition number
Right.
1,
Mhm.
because we have another
Yeah,
agenda item
that's-
that we need to talk about and
Later,
consider
okay.
that.
Yeah,
That's a-
because we can either put everything in one proposition. Or
Mhm.
split them.
No,
Mhm.
split it.
Half
Mhm.
of it.
Split it.
It's
Okay.
it's kind of hard to
Yeah,
separate.
Yeah.
Yes. And we'll talk about the other agenda item.
I don't have any issue with
Approve
this.
item at a time.
All right.
What do you mean, approve item, which items are? I
Go
think
ahead.
water district number 1, everything there is one item.
Agreed, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, proposition
Yeah.
number 1 would be.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I mean, each job should be Proposition 1, Proposition 2. You
If
should-
there's any more.
If there's
because we
more
have
to
another
add to
agenda
it.
item that we need to talk about.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with that treatment
Each
facility.
deal should be
Yeah.
independent
Separate.
Yeah,
or separate, yes.
Yes.
that would be my thought as well. All right. Does this require action?
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, that wraps up item number
Questions,
3.
Just feel free to call us, during the week, if you remember something that you are not sure of, call us. We still have information available. But it is for water treatment plant number 1, we'll make it into a microfiltration system.
What's the tax increase?
We have,
We have,
just,
The next step is to get
Yeah.
your finance guy down here to run numbers next.
Yeah.
If everyone's in favor of moving forward,
Financial advisor.
Yeah,
get your financial advisor down here and do a demo of what it is.
Yeah, and we also have, Bruce Nichols here attended the site, and we have Signal Western Greenwood as well, to where if we're ready to start with that engineering report, like do that task, that authorization here at the next meeting on April 10th.
Yes.
I mean, that's something we can put that on the agenda to get it started, basically.
Make sure it's there.
How many of you staff work or live in the water district area? Yeah?
I do.
How do you guys feel about your taxes going up to pay for this? You willing to do it? Yeah?
Your taxes go up or your rates go up?
You can ask me about it, I can tell you. It's very minimal, or that's the least that I pay taxes compared to the city, the county, the school district. They're really high, and ours is the lowest. It's pretty fair what we're paying now, and I believe if it goes up, it's not gonna go,
penny or
high,
it's
no,
not
it's a few pennies.
Well, it's only around 4 cents now, so I mean,
Right. So I think it's not a lot. It's the least that we're gonna be paying anyhow, compared to the Midland School District and the other taxing entities.
I like to do everything possible to never raise rates or taxes, obviously. So I think it's important that it's really justified if we're asking people to spend their money on it. It's easy to sit up here as a board and not feel it, but
And we can give you
That's our
numbers after we start
responsibility.
getting, the financial advisors in, we can get some numbers in, and that way we can, how many pennies.
because I play SimCity and I know that anytime I increase the tax rate, that the smiley face starts looking like this happy face, even though I know I need the pipes. So, all right.
Interesting analogy.
I think it should be required. Everybody should have to play that game if you're on the board.
That's my daughter, because she's the one on SimCity all the time. So.
All right. Robert's Rule of Order, Prez.
Yeah, I'm ready to go to the next step.
Go.
Yeah, moving on to 4?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right, yeah, well, item 4, I don't know if you can read it off, or,
Oh, excuse me. Consider and discuss Long Island water distribution and wastewater collection improvements.
all right, so on this one, I mean, Sickler and Western Greenwood, I'll just have them, they have PowerPoint presentation. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, appreciate it. And give me a chance to talk about the project going on over here.
Absolutely. If it's okay with y'all, I'd like to go ahead and just introduce, we brought a small group from the Long Island Village Infrastructure Committee, so would you like to come on up, Doug, and introduce everybody?
First off, I appreciate you guys letting us come here. I realize how hard your guys' job is, because you can't really get anything done unless it gets down to votes. What Randy's gonna present, he's the expert. I'm just a guy that lives in LIV. Every morning I wanna be able to flush my toilet, turn the water on. You take that stuff for granted. Unfortunately for us, we might be in a situation where we might not be able to take that stuff for granted. So what can we do for you guys? And it kind of brings me back to Jerry Maguire movie. That it was a line out of that movie I always remember, help me to help you. You guys on the last election, you represent Laguna Heights, Laguna Vista, Port Isabel, South Padre Island, Long Island Village. On that bond election, I think you only had 338 people vote total. We have 1,000 residences, homes in Long Island Village. Some, 1 people, 2 people, 3 people. I don't know how many of that 1,000 homes are registered voters. Might be 300, might be 500, might be 700, I don't know. But what I do know is our community is probably the most organized you'll ever see. When you drive into that community, there's a reader board right there, which we can post a message every day, vote for this proposition. When you exit Long Island Village, every day, there's a reader board, vote for this proposition. We have a board of directors meeting once every month, a coffee once every month. We can tell our members, vote for this proposition. We have a newsletter that goes out every month, vote for this proposition. We have people that play pickleball, tennis, basketball, our golfers, the old lady quilters, the stained glass people, the library. You would not believe how organized this community is. We're really at the threshold where we need your guys' help. Randy's the guy who's going to do the expert presentation. but you guys really can't get anything done unless you can get the votes. All I'm asking as an LIV resident is you guys consider our proposal and don't be afraid to be bold. When you ask about the taxes and the increase, I never thought of that. When you say, would you want to have a tax increase? It wasn't until this came up, I actually pulled my taxes from last year. My taxes to Laguna Madre Water District, I think it's $30. If it goes up 30%, that means I'm paying $9 extra. $9, that's like going to McDonald's with myself and my wife. It's worth that extra $9. So when you worry about the taxes, I appreciate the fact that you're looking out for your tax people and the people that voted for you guys. On the flip side, I'm saying I think we can get you enough votes, and I think that Kerry at South Padre Island with his city council can also get enough votes. So if you guys are bold and you make this proposition go on there, I think we can help get the votes. I appreciate you guys listening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Doug. Let me do this real quick. Would y'all stand up and just introduce yourself, please? You want to start, Ken?
Well, I'm Ken Waller. I'm with Long Island Village. I'm president of the association.
My name's Victor Wright. I'm the vice president of the association.
Kimberly Fisher, lived out there for 22 years. Used to be one of the youngest people out there. Don't know about anymore.
We still are some of the youngest people.
But newly directed to the board, so glad to be here. My first meeting here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you heard from me. Thanks.
Good. Just want to introduce our team. I've got Sergio Gonzalez. Sergio's a young engineer with our firm, been there a couple of years now. Also got Mr. Phillip. Mr. Phillip's our expert in financing and such like that. We're looking at all options available to us with that. A couple of our other engineers I think y'all have got to meet, and Jose Reyes also comes quite regularly to the board. But we love to be able to talk to you about this. Our City Limits of Greenwood, some of our items that we love to do is the large water and wastewater projects. We're built plants all across South Texas, all the way from Brownsville to Laredo. I do a lot of work all the way up to the Kerrville area. And like I said, specialties is that. I love the water, wastewater industries and work a lot within there. If I could, Daisy, we could start the PowerPoint. Do I need to tell you to move forward, or do you have a... All right. And I'm going to try to be brief. It's we've got a lot of detail within that, and I'm sorry, it's going to be hard to see the one behind it. So this is just a real quick status update, and I just want to kind of let y'all know it's a joint report, and just want to identify some of the key issues, proposed solutions, some of our water use data, wastewater use data, and projected cost within this. Laguna Madre, identifying some of the, LIV/Laguna Madre, identifying some of the issues that are out there. So we're looking at the current water usage, water rates determined by single master meters currently out there, and I'm noting significant raise in the cost versus singular meters. Treated potable water use for irrigation, significant portion treated water for the golf course, sewer rates based on the treated water consumption, of course, treated water use for irrigation, golf course mediums, sewer rates can be inflated also due to the irrigation usage within it. Some of the identifying issues at Long Island Village, lack of water meters to the lots dramatically increase some of the water rates. Minimum fire protection. We talk about some of the TCQ issues that can happen because of that. Deteriorated water and sewer infrastructure. We've got some of the water lines, some of the breakage and leaking, as you know. Sewer lines, infiltrations, lift stations, also more pumping due to that infiltration. So a lot of needs out there in terms of what needs to happen with that. Some of those quick solutions, just identifying them real quickly: individual metering, the wireless AMI meters. Appreciate everybody's support also for the Bureau of Reclamation application that we've turned in, so I appreciate y'all's support with that. New water lines, looping them, fire rated lines, fire hydrant installations. Of course, water line to be placed within the with proper separation within the street right of way. The water cost itself was about $6 million, and the $6.1 million right there to do that. The wastewater solutions, looking at replacing all the wastewater lines within this current budget, replace all the manholes, new services to all the lots also. Wastewater lines, of course, should be placed within the road right of way. Engineers cost us about $10.46 million within there. And that includes the lift station cost of about $1.5 million within that price too. The lift stations themselves, you've got a lot of seawater infiltration, as you know, as we were discussing. Pump upgrades, we're looking at renovation versus replacement, and again, a cost of about $1.5 million for just those. So let me just go through this real quickly. I know we were talking about wastewater reuse. That is an option for the golf course. Just an FYI, if that's something that we want to dive into and look a little closer. Right in here is just some of the layouts of the proposed improvements. We've got, you can see, it's not going to shine on there, but a lot of the water lines may be under the lots, and we're needing to relocate them properly. Sewer lines and sometimes in that location also need to be set inside the road right-of-ways, and to have proper easements dedicated within that right-of-way, which Long Island also has done. So we've completed all the survey data with this. We've got the LiDAR data, we've got the on-ground survey data, and generating this information right now to move forward with this, and that's how we're coming up and developing the cost estimates moving forward with this. Just want to go through here. There's a lot of data, and I'm not going to try to bore you with all the data in here, but if you look at the domestic consumption throughout a couple of year history here, from 12 all the way to current times, there's some high spikes in there. There are also some very high leaks that have been occurring out there in the system too. One of the things also, just to look at the, if you look at the left highlighted versus the right highlighted, if you look at the master meter cells projections, it's about $486,000 versus the individual meters of about $339,000, where you're actually working within a lower cost rate because of the meter sets in that location. The golf course itself uses quite a lot of water out there too, and that's an item that we may want to discuss again in terms of wastewater reuse, or possible just even using raw water versus treated water in the golf course. So it's again an option. Projected monthly demand, as you can kind of see, the red line's an average, and you're sitting there about 1.3 million in that per month for the golf course. Golf course itself generates approximately, and I'm putting some inflationary numbers for the future in there, about a 5% increase of about $71,000 a year in terms of water use on the golf course itself. One of the things we've also been looking at is just the water savings alone on just replacing the lines and going to individual meters. We're estimating you get almost 90 acre-feet of water saved that you have treated at your plant that you could push elsewhere, that we're not having to actually lose in the system out here. So that's an important number to remember. There are pretty good savings in there.
Yeah. Explain that. Why?
There's two reasons. Primarily the breaks that are occurring out there.
But I mean, they could occur if they were individually metered or not.
Correct.
You're just saying an upgrade of the piping, you shouldn't have as many leaks.
There's a couple things. You've got pre-meter and then post-meter. Once you've got meters on everybody's lots, then everybody is much more water conscious when they've got to pay that bill. Plus, if you've got a break behind there with your smart meters, that's the great thing. You'll be notified with that instantaneously. A lot of this water is lost prior to going into the houses and the consumption at that point. Yes, sir. But this is actual trends, and looking at that data that about 88 acre-feet of water could be saved just based on changing out both of them.
How did you get such a big change in numbers between 16 and 17 of what I saw? You had $100,000 difference.
This number up here?
Yeah. In your master meter sales, $100,000 between 16 and 17. do you have more residents living out there, breakage, or how did you, that's a huge
Yeah.
number.
And I've got Sergio here too with me that's.
Just curious how or what, or, and,
I believe it was primarily water
Oh.
loss out there.
It was even bigger from 15 to 16,
140.
140.
From 15
yeah,
From 15 to 17, it's double.
I mean, those are some big
It's
numbers.
interesting information, isn't it? Yeah.
One of the things that I've learned is that when you have a master meter, customers aren't conscious about their consumption. So there's possibly toilet leaks that are not getting repaired. And I believe the customers there are in and out. They don't come back in a while, but the water, if there's a water leak in one of them, it's consistently going until somebody catches it or says something about it. And if there's a master meter, they're not going to be conscious about it because it's just everybody's paying for the water. So if they're individually, if there's individual meters out there,
Yeah,
they're going to pay for it. You know,
Yeah.
so they're going to be like, okay,
yeah.
I gotta cut my-
14 just
check my
happens
toilet
like this
and all
summer.
that.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
$300
And I
water
know-
bills.
Absolutely. And great questions, because just like Carlos was mentioning, where to identify it's pretty hard sometimes because of it occurring after the meter, where if you're not having an individual meter, you know, it may not be that concern. When they have an individual meter, they may want to change out the tallest to low flush. They may want to go to all those things to make sure they keep their rates as low as possible. So we do know there's many breaks, but this is.
Can I just buy in on just this a little bit, just so you understand? One of the main reasons we want to do this project is because our water lines run along our canals and they run underneath our pads. And if we get a leak run along our canals,
You don't know about it.
they don't get noticed because there's no meter to tell
Right.
us it's leaking.
Right.
And we had a management company that was taking care of our park that wasn't that aware or didn't care. So when these water lines would break down under our pads, they didn't go fix it. So during those years, that was a really bad time because they weren't paying attention and we didn't have people that caught that to tell us that we were losing all that water. That was just wasted water. And if you look at the last couple of years, we've been paying attention to the leaks, even though our infrastructure is at the point that we really need to get everything out in the street and take care of it. Those leaks cost us a lot of money and you a lot of water, and they shouldn't have happened. We should have done this a long time ago. So that's why this project is being pushed forward.
Good point, thank you. And so much of that is, does the water come to the surface out there? And a lot of times, no, it's, you know, as you know, it's going right into the water out there, too hard to identify for the men in the field out there too.
Who pays to fix all that?
We do
It's locally,
You guys do.
It's our responsibility currently.
yes.
All we do is get them the water. Correct. And it goes to one master meter?
We have two master meters right now and one master meter for our golf course.
Is it 18 holes?
Yes,
It's 18.
Par 3 only.
Par 3, right?
It's much smaller.
it's really
Potable
fun.
water.
Yeah, but good question. Please stop me any point because there is so much data in here, and I'm not trying to slow this down, but there's so much data. So let me just keep going on back to kind of this point. Again, that's how much water itself is on the golf course. So I think, you know, again, a supplemental review of the golf course itself, besides the lines, could make a tremendous impact. Of course, helping have a little extra water to be able to have for additional cells. For additional growth too. So again, about 88 acre feet, just in that alone, just in those trends that we're seeing, savings per year basis. Just talking about real quickly, there's the CCN for it. Proposed water lines, nothing too complicated right now. It's just going down and keeping a main loop where we can, and then feeding off of the main line if the loop's not possible. Proposed sewer lines, again, just about the same thing, trying to replace everything and provide new services for all the lots. There's your 4 lift stations on site, with lift station number 4 being your primary one that's pumping back across and then into the gravity system and then into the plant from that point.
What is it there now? What happened? Yeah, explain that.
But what's out there right now?
Yeah.
There's an existing lift station, but it's in need of repairs too.
So you have one lift station?
No,
But there-
4 lift stations is what we have.
Four lift
Yes,
stations?
They're located here?
Yes.
Yes,
Red dots.
The red dot.
Red dots, tell us.
yeah. You see how they kind of piggyback to each other, 1 to 2 to 3, and the 4. And 4 is your primary one going back out across the channel there, in a pressure main under the channel there. Yes, sir.
So, we're not talking just about individual meters, you guys want to redo all of it?
Yeah.
The entire water infrastructure put into water.
When you're tearing up the streets, and
Yeah.
yes, sir, to do it all, it's, and I don't know what type of infiltration I that we may be getting at the wastewater plant side, but, you know, this is a major improvement too, in trying to make sure not only get your water loss down, and then also try to drop that infiltration from that groundwater that's just coming in
It
salty
was
water.
designed as an RV park and it's going to a full living now. Is kind of it's converting over from a RV park to a full subdivision.
Yes, sir.
I mean, in synopsis.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
$500,000 homes out there now.
You know, I'm just kind of,
Yeah.
some people aren't aware or
Right.
know that where it was and where it is.
Right.
No, that's it.
The problem here is this was an RV park,
Mhm.
and this has morphed over in the past 30 years into a residential subdivision now.
So the infrastructure is good for an RV park, but not sufficient for full-time?
See, right now, we're also looking into our electrical services even go underneath the houses. This is stuff that it's been just put off and put off and put off, and I don't know why, but the board of directors now has taken this on in the last 3 years to get this up to code. We need to get our water quality up to code too. I mean, you know, you guys give us good water at that meter, but then
By the
from
time
there
it gets
on,
to
I
you.
mean, we go to 1,024 houses, that we have a lot of breaks, and we need to get this done. So we don't have a problem with our water quality in there.
How many people are full-time out of that 1,200?
300 and something?
It was close to 400, I think, the last count we had.
Okay.
So there's a lot of winter birds that come down, but then, you know, they also then have their places for the summer. But there's a lot of people there now full-time.
400 homes, not
Yeah,
So-
homes, I'm sorry.
So how many homes how many sites are there?
1,023.
So there's 1,000.
You want me to fast forward? Let me get to the.
I'm sorry, maybe we're asking questions.
No, it's a
There.
good point, but there's, in all the colors, it's, and if you look at the information, there's one person, or one husband and wife, however you want to say it, owns 935, or I shouldn't say it that way, there's 935 individual ones,
Mhm.
and there's 43 double ones, and there's 2 triple ownerships in there. So
Those
I
are
know-
people who just own 3 different places.
That's correct. Sometimes they own side by side to make a larger tract, or double C cottages, or double lots to make them extra wide. But that's what you've got within there. I was just gonna back up and say, the water line, and I can't highlight it here for you, but you've got a main 24-inch running through the facility too, also, within its own easement also. I wish I could.
Yeah, I believe in 1985, 86, the water district requested an easement through there, and Long Island, I guess it had a different name back then, but they provided that easement so we can install the 24 that goes all the way to the island, right through there, where the main road is at in the middle, all the way to the east.
Maybe it's not the time or place to ask this question, but I'm going to. At one time, some of the surrounding property or developers wanted to develop some of that property too. Is that,
Yeah, that's a fact that they wanted to develop, but at that time, the property.
without,
owner,
they don't have any
they didn't want
infrastructure,
to,
or they didn't
Give
want?
him a place to connect or anything like that. But now they're willing to help out and.
With this project,
Correct.
can add additional
Right, on the outskirts of that.
outskirt development.
Right.
Okay, that's where I was trying to go
The
through this.
improvements could be tied into and continue to be developed and looped and go either
Who owns
to
that
the
land?
south or to whatever that is. But yes, sir, very true.
That's what discouraged a lot of owners back there, that they didn't have a place to connect, and they'd have to develop their own system.
Who owns all this land?
That's,
John
Well,
Freeland. Well, I think he died, but
Also,
it's a guy out of Dallas.
Also, Cowan properties own
Yeah.
everything north of us, and we recently had an agreement with Cowan, if they decide to develop, that they could hook into our system and use the sewer system and the water system that exists there if it facilitates that building. So and they're very aggressive in what they want to build out there. So that would be a whole nother development, could be another 1,000 units on the Cowan property.
Are the lots within Long Island Village deeded or leasehold?
Deeded.
All of them?
They're all deeded.
Okay.
A lot of taxpayers out there, which is I think what Doug was trying to
Yeah.
talk about.
Well,
They're not just RVs coming in and out, there's
yeah.
a lot of taxpayers out there.
It's a great
People
community.
live in McAllen that come every weekend, but, so they're not full-time residents, there's people 3 nights a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
No, I was just trying to kind of get the board to understand the surrounding property, because I know their problems too, and, I mean, we need to solve all the problems, yours, theirs, because, I mean, it's, in fairness, we're, and sell water, so we're trying
Yeah,
to,
we got Sun Harbor, which has a
Right.
condominium unit. We got Freeland, we got Cowan, and then we got other properties, smaller properties held by the banks and stuff like that. So there's a lot of property held on the island.
yeah, no, I'm familiar. I'm not trying to change the subject.
No,
here,
no,
but-
no, it's a good
That's-
point, because once you put it in, you don't want to put something too small in and not have
Right.
a future ability to be able to do that. But no, the point well taken. And now I just wanted to put this up here for information purposes, because there is 123, 24 lots out there, and how that kind of all fades out.
1,000.
1,024? Yeah, sorry, 1,024. Anyway, so there's the real quick summary. I went ahead and had my GIS lady pull the 2017 appraised value. It's about 114 million. What you see below it is like you're talking about in terms of the taxation. And this is for a property that's out there, and this one's at $250,000. You can see where you're sitting at right there in terms of rate for Laguna Madre water, at $100 for a $250,000 piece of property. So, very, very reasonable amount too.
What is, where does $250,000 fall in the range of how much those?
The average
yeah.
of it.
Is that a median, or is that at the high end or the low end?
And I'm gonna ask these gentlemen, what
Yeah.
do y'all think here?
That's median.
Somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, we've got property worth a lot more than that.
Mhm.
And then we have, and actually, just lots that you can park a trailer on that would be at the lower end,
Mhm.
50,000, 80,000, depends on where they are.
I did a quick
Out of
history.
our, you were asking how many people own whatever.
Mhm.
275 are full-time that live there year-round. We have 414 that are valley owners.
Okay.
So we have 67% of the 1,024 are actually valley people. The rest are owned out of state or out of the valley anyways. So I don't know if that helps you at all, but we do have 275 that can actually vote.
So it's rather interesting, and like I said, I just pulled this across there real quick and just looked at a couple of years worth of value, but this piece of property here too, it's increased $20,000 in value in just the last year or two. So there's been, and of course 2019 is coming out shortly here too, which is, don't hold your breath, but it should be coming out. Anyway, so just wanted to real quickly summarize it, where he's sitting out at $6 million on the water, about 10.4 on the wastewater. Again, a cost per lot basis is about 16,000, just to kind of look and see how that works out in terms of that. So that's a good number to keep in your head there too. Whoops, I'm sorry, I went backwards. And with that, I'd like to say thank you for the opportunities. Any questions? Before I wrap it up, I'd like to also say I've got Mr. Phillip, and Mr. Phillip probably can shed some light on some things I think failed to.
Can the homeowners put an assessment on to do that $16,000 assessment per lot, or?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just asking, is that one option also?
That's one option. Right now, we are putting away 12% every month of our monthly dues for our infrastructure. And,
That's huge.
Or 12% a year. It works out to about, I think right now it's about $430,000 a year that we are putting away for this.
That's a pretty big number.
We'll let them finish the project. So, I mean, we do have different ways of paying for this.
Just all options.
At the end of the day, what we're telling all of our people at our board meetings is this is the biggest project. It's the biggest project our community has seen. And I think it was a simple analogy, but it's right. But are you going to be happy when you flush the toilet and you turn the water on? People may not like to pay a little bit more, but they do understand the necessity. And when we had, for example, the brownouts, because of the daisy chain, we talk about that. Here's why. When our people are out there constantly fixing things for the leaks and the shutdown, we shut down this whole section or that whole section, they're saying, but I pay this water bill, So we're just trying to get all those people reliable service, and they understand what's coming. They get it. We're talking about it.
You've been working on it for a while.
Yes. Part of board did a great job of that. We're carrying the torch.
Good evening. I'm Sonny Phillip. I'm working with Randy's team. And there's a good dialogue, truthful dialogue going on, and we truly appreciate it. There's over 1,000 people living there. They have been a taxpayer of the system for a long time. And when you talk about your entity, it is one of a kind. I'm so glad that it's being developed like that, serving Laguna Vista, Port Isabel, the island. Imagine if they were independent system, they could never get the water from the river. So you are onto something. At the same time, your responsibility come to a wider range. And again, there was some good conversation as to water plant capacities at certain percent. You don't want to be at that situation. You need to have a duplicate ability, and also you are able to operate. Your system lays the foundation for the growth. When the area grows, you all gain weight. Prime example, you saw that part of the Long Island Village, there's quite a bit of land to be developed. Those are your tax bases to be developed. And Long Island Village has been operating this small system. They have honorably taken on Cigar Winston, bringing them on board, surveying the whole property, identifying how many customers, what need to be done. And they are willing to do whatever they can working with the district. But regardless, they have to do something because it is no longer possible to have the lines in different areas. So some of the things Randy mentioned, they could clean up the whole thing. All the water lines, sewer lines will be on dedicated right-of-ways. And if there is any testing done, good system will be left alone. There's no need in throwing away something which is already there. And then, of course, it is an expensive proposition there. And I believe the financing structure comes in very important. And again, we want to work with you all to see whether we can utilize the Texas Water Development Board financing, which is even after you go through a bond issue and bond election there, you still have the option to utilize their financing, which is at the maximum 2.5% or 2% for one of the systems there. And they will provide 20 to 25-year financing, and that can work from there. Long Island Village has quite a bit need. Your district has quite a bit need. It is within your jurisdiction. What they have alluded is saying that, well, in order to lay the foundation for the future growth, even within the Long Island Village, or increasing the pressure throughout the system, which is needed also there, they are willing to partner up and lift a heavy lifting out there to make the residents or the taxpayers or the ratepayers aware of the situation, which you may not be able to do on your own as the elected board or appointed board out there, versus third parties will be able to do that. And again, chairman is also saying that if the total project cannot be put in the bond issue, if there is some assessment need to be done, and they are willing to sit down and negotiate. So that tells that this is not a final presentation. And possibly we may have to come back and meet and see what that agreement can be so that certain items can be put on the bond issue, the other items can be decided on by the Long Island Village and how can we participate. We did not have an option to back away because 1,000 people rely on it. This is within your jurisdiction. There is more growth potential there. And we can help you in different ways. Again, some of the things I can bring to the table is if any of your existing systems will qualify for funding from the North American Development Bank, which can be a grant or something, we'd be glad to work with your staff and help them to proceed with that also. And sometimes some of the new technologies, some of the new water-saving measures and different things, and especially on the land side of it, you will be able to get some benefit from it. And so we are all here to work together to make it happen. In the event that if nothing happens there, they cannot leave it like that, and they have to look at other options, and that's the last thing they want to do because they are residents, they are taxpayers at the same time. This is where they come to find the solutions. If I can answer any questions, I'd be glad to.
What's your worst case scenario? If, say, a bond didn't pass, what would you guys do?
Well, what they have done is the board authorized for the selection of an engineer and the team. If the bond issue does not come, they have to look at other financing options, and primarily through the Water Development Board. It can be funneled through you, or they have to be on their own entity. And they do not want to go from there because you stand to benefit much more by working together and making it happen. But we sincerely appreciate the board's willingness and the open dialogue. And again, their side itself, they're not holding anything back, and they are not trying to negotiate a better position. They are just being frank, and so do you. And I believe that's where we can come up with some solutions.
I think we need to bring our financial people into this discussion. You know, if there was a developer coming into this area wanting to build 1,000 unit development, we wouldn't front him the cost to do that. And in a way, that's what you're asking, but, you know, Long Island Village is a special case. I'm in favor of helping you obtain the best financing possible. I would like our finance people to do some investigation of this. Perhaps there's a way where we could do we possibly increase rates at Long Island Village and do a revenue bond specific to your need.
Public PID,
But something that's specific to your need and payable by
property
you
improvement, a
only.
property improvement tax or property improvement development tax that just focuses on that development, that region, that area, without affecting
The rest of the
the rest of the, because this is not adding a wastewater treatment plant, it's more adding infrastructure. It's all valuable, that's a whole picture, but it's trying to get everyone else to understand the whole picture and how the puzzle's put together. It's almost like a property improvement development tax or something is kind of where you need to.
PID.
Two items I want to put on the other side of that discussion. One, they have been paying taxes for 30+ years.
But everybody pays taxes.
True, but they have not received the benefit that you offer to the other residents, so there's some value.
Oh, no, wait. The water district didn't put in the supply and collection lines for everybody else. Private development did that.
True. But some of the residual amount coming from there goes to the total improvements. The other side is, whatever system need to be done in the Long Island Village is the initial installment to develop the entire island. So how do we make the Long Island Village strictly pay for that? And when the new growth is going to be utilized. And so there's some room out there for you to consider, other than just simply being paid totally by the Long Island Village residents.
Is there any developers that are currently interested in developing the surrounding area if the infrastructure was suffice? I mean, would they be willing to participate in?
They would not get any benefit from our infrastructure. The only place that they would get benefit from our infrastructure would be on our main line going to lift station number 4, that the Cowan Group, we do have an agreement with them through easements and whatever else, that they would be able to use that line and lift station number 4. But if their capacity is such, they have to upgrade that system at that point.
Right.
So, I mean, we have done that already for them. The other one that would be is the Freeland family. They own another, 500 acres out there. But that is something that would have to be, it would have nothing to do with our infrastructure either. And I totally agree with you. You know, if this was a new development, yes, the developer would go in, put in all of this infrastructure, and then turn it over to you. We've spent 40 years now paying top dollar for our water, because we're paying, we're putting about 4 million gallons a month, and we're paying, whatever your top rate is for the last 3 million gallons. And I kind of look at it as, you go into Port Isabel, you go into any of these other cities, and you put new water lines in when they need it. After 40 years, we've had our water lines there for 40 years, they need to be upgraded. I understand. And you guys really have no responsibility for that. I understand that. And like I say, we are willing to work with you in any way we can. And as you know, we've been here before. We came for rate structure, that type of thing in the beginning. But, I think it's more important to us is to be able to get some low interest financing.
Sure,
And
sure.
if it's a tax rate for just Long Island Village, I mean, that's fine. But, we don't want to do a $16,000 special assessment to our people. It's not going to go over well, even though, it's needed, it's necessary, but it's something that...
When we get our finance guy down here, let's see if we can arrange a little sit down and take it from there and ask a couple questions on what a property improvement bond would be, because you can do a bond strictly for that area based on their revenue. They'll bond that. I mean, through revenue you can do that in its own, and discuss that with him. Of course, we'd have sign off on it, but that's.
Can I ask a question? I am a newbie on the board, so sometimes they go to me, hey, I've explained this on, and I said, we do appreciate that. We've talked about this before, or whatever. Me just sitting as a property owner now, let me take myself out of the picture. If I had bought a house over on South Padre Island, and something's wrong over there, don't y'all fix that stuff? I mean, do you take responsibility for, the builder's gone, the house is built, do you guys?
We accept it up to the meter, yes. The lines up to the meter, the water district is responsible for, yes. But it's a different scenario. We're responsible up to the meter of your establishment or your place. That's our liability, our responsibility to you. That's for us to get to you. You have private development and private infrastructure. That's the way it's currently set up.
And I think a lot of the problems exist is because it was done as an RV park. They just laid the lines willy-nilly.
It's a different usage.
In the worst places they could lay
intent.
lines, they put lines. And you would not have been allowed to do that on South Padre Island or Port Isabel, Laguna Vista. The engineering standards are much more strict to be signed off by the city and the plat approval.
We have prerequisites before we accept a street or something. If you're going to add another subdivision on South Padre Island, we have prerequisites that we have to take on before we accept the water line.
Okay, well, that makes sense to me. And then the only other question I had, again, just since we're here, my person, is like, would it be, do you all view it as a positive if you could have all of those meters out there? Would you not want it to be metered, all
think we want all the customers to have the access now to the electronics available, to opening that app and seeing what your usage is and seeing if there's a problem. It's just next, it's next generation stuff. Y'all are operating, out of 70s technology, and we're trying to bring everybody up into the next generation. So yes, definitely.
So there's a mutual benefit right there. Thank you very much.
Unless you have any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Why does it benefit us that they have personal meters?
Because they are a client of this water district. So you want them to have the same benefits as that client in Laguna Vista or Port Isabel or South Padre Island to be able
Or
to
any
access
homeowner.
that information. So I mean, why treat them any less? You need to treat them the same.
Yeah, and just one point, say from the water conservation standpoint, where they're, with this more efficient metering system, they're gonna save 90 acre-feet a year without avoiding.
87.
That's
Or
a lot.
87, that avoids.
Proposed up to 87.
Well, that would be about.
Which is huge. That's a big number.
230,000 in water rights that we wouldn't have to buy.
And as we were talking before, and they've talked, and then it has nothing to do with you, of course, we do have the number 1, I think, and number 3 and number 7 meter of the Laguna Madre Water District. And we do pay the $50,000 or $60,000 a year in taxes to you, but we really get no benefit from that. We're paying for the lift stations, we're paying for repairs of all of our lift stations, we're paying for the repairs of all of our water lines and our sewer lines. And that's fine. That's the way this was put up to begin with. Like I say, we're just asking you guys, more than anything.
It would be efficient and it would be.
It would be some help with
yes.
this financial.
No, I fully understand.
So they don't pay for any of the repairs to their
They're self-maintained.
infrastructure.
They're self-maintained.
Everything.
But they pay the same taxes that we pay.
correct.
So, I mean, that's
We pay
an
the-
argument that they've been doing that for 30 years, right? That they've been paying the same tax rate, but not getting the same benefit, which is, I think, something that you were saying before.
During that period, we overhauled all of our lift stations. During that period, we added lines underneath the intercoastal. We paid to have those lines run under the intercoastal. During that period, when we did have leaks that we didn't detect them, we paid top dollar for the water that just ran out into the canal. And we also paid sewer taxes on that water too, because we couldn't detect it because we didn't have a meter to detect it. And once in a while, during the year, we would come to you and we would negotiate a one-time cut in the cost because we do pay the highest rate. And you guys have been really good about that, and we appreciate these people working with us when we needed that. And we're not complaining about that, but what we want you to know is we need to modernize this because it's only going to cost us more and more money. And eventually, we feel like it benefits everybody, and we are part of your group. We're your customer, we're part of your group, and we feel like what we're asking for is for you to help us help ourselves, and what we're offering you, like he said, is that if you've got a bond issue you need passed, we're offering you the footwork and the legwork and the dedication to get that bond issue passed, so you don't have to go another route on a bond issue. So we're more than willing to work with you. We really want to help you guys out, but we want you to appreciate that we're asking because we need it.
I like what Mr. Houston, you made that so clear for me, is like, we just want to be treated equal in some manners, you know, and a win-win, you know,
Sure.
whenever we can
No,
get
I
a win-win, if
understand.
we can,
We
that
all
would
do.
just be great for all of us. Thank you.
And of course, you know, this is also for safety and public health too. You know, we need to get our water lines up where they belong. And like I say, I know you give us water that is good up to our meter, and after that, it's up to us. But, you know, we need to get this done, and I think it's beneficial for both of us. It's knowing that, you know, we have good water going into that, into each and every home.
And by allowing them to be a full subdivision and change of usage, you're going to see the property values increase as they phase out of the RV park into full housing.
Eddie,
Right now-
Master plan development, or
And
slowly
if
it's
Eddie
converted.
If Eddie would, before the finance guy comes in, give him a heads up on this information, so when he comes here, he can give us some answers, not just hear our concerns. We'd like to move this thing along.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll look into that one and see how we can, like Mr. Friedman had mentioned, that maybe just tax bond for themselves.
And if I may, I would like to invite Sonny to the meeting because of his city management experience and understanding of some of these. I believe it's very key to giving us options and solutions and proposals. It's just my opinion.
And that's why they're here.
Yes.
They're willing to assist us in putting something together.
If I could just address Adam, one last point. You know, again, when it comes to the taxes, we had people ask us as board members, we're going to do the moratorium, we get this thing approved, property approved. The first question they would ask me, well, doesn't that mean our taxes will go up? There's such a misconception about taxes. They don't realize that's our job and what we've been doing, how little the Luna Madre is in the income, the taxes that we pay in the city. If you guys, again, had a 40% rate increase, I took my whole tax in and would pay an extra $16 a year. And when you explain that to our people, it might, for some people it might be 30, it might be $40, that's for a whole year. Our guys go, well, what do we even have this debate for? So I think it's great that you're looking out for the voters on the taxes, but man, we can push that because it's a no-brainer.
And gentlemen, I was gonna say, whatever help, support we can do to show y'all what the needs are, it's not bringing it here to scare anybody, it's just, these are the facts, how do we move forward with it, how we can do it, and that's why Mr. Phillips so key in this in terms of how do we get this financed and what's the best method to move forward, because we don't want to see it die also because of, lack of support. And believe me, all your staff, Charles, Carlos, and of course Robert, have all been very helpful in terms of getting to meet with us and continue this discussion, because it's, like I said, it is such an important project. There are so many facets of this to pull us together to make this work. It's not just something that's going to happen overnight, but it's a very important, complicated project.
Thank you.
It's like it's a $20 million project.
16.6 is a projected number.
So I'm gonna go with 20.
Being the only guy that hadn't talked yet, I just want to weigh in briefly. Out of respect to everybody's time. I'm the new guy here. I'm not really a politician, and business aside, because, both of those things have been discussed. When I think about this, I think about a couple things. Think about my granddad and what he'd want me to do, and I think about my son and, what he'd want me to do. And I say both those things to say this: that community, let's just be honest, for me, is a community of, our elders and our neighbors. We pray before every water district meeting, and this is the state of Texas, and I think caring for our neighbors should play a role in this. I guess what I would want to appeal to everybody in this room is the humanity involved in what we're discussing right now. We're talking about clean water, we're talking about proper sewage, disposal, and we're talking about a community of over 1,000 residents. That's right, yeah. So times that by at least 2. So I think the hearts of everybody sitting at this table are in the right place, and we want to look at some creative solutions for making this possible. I know I do. And I'd be open to hearing any financial conversation that would lend itself to be a win-win, as mentioned before. Because I couldn't imagine, flushing the toilet and wondering what's going to happen, or turning on the water and not knowing what I'm getting. And there is a conservation aspect to this that's already been discussed, at length, that we're only going to get so much water from that river. And if we're wasting 87 acres of it potentially annually, then that's something that could be considered as well. But my heart goes out to you guys, and I respect and appreciate all the work that the board that's represented here has done on behalf of the community that you represent, and thank you for your presentation today.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's what I was going to say. Thank you. All the information and everybody's time that you all spent. It was very informative for everything that you presented to the board.
I just say thank you, guys. This has been very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Are we moving on to item 5?
All right. Item 5.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thanks, guys.
Daisy, as we transition, I just want to commend you again for excellent selection of snacks this evening.
We ate your good ones before you got here.
We've got checks mix.
All right, cool. So, well, yeah, the additional projects is, we're just thinking of our major jobs that we need to look at to try to put in this role in the same proposition while we have it out there for bond election. And the first one being this elevated storage tank, number one, which is here in Port Isabel, the one right here next to the building. It's a 300,000 gallon tank that's, on the books right now for the capital plan we had a rehab. But with this land swap looking pretty good, it may make sense to just replace the tank at this time and just try to put it there as one of the projects including the election.
What's the proposed cost?
I don't have it yet.
More or less.
We'll put it in the,
More or less.
Ballpark it.
1 million?
yeah, somewhere in there.
And why would we do that rather than rehabilitate?
Well, I mean, it's kind of probably in its round where you can only rehabilitate it about one more time anyway. And with the type of that this tank is, I mean, I don't know if maybe, Charles, you can give us some more detail on this type of tank to do a rehab versus replacement.
I'm Charles Kitcher, I work with Priest Nichols Engineering. I mean, without actually evaluating it,
That's got
just
badass.
based on experience
I like it.
with the leg type tanks, you run into OSHA standard issues. Plus, you already have some corrosion on the exterior, corrosion on the interior, probably very similar items in the.
It's 40
Yeah.
years, it's 40 years old.
Yeah, the last rehab we did in 2012 said it would give us about 8 years, and we're hitting that mark already.
Right. So when we come across these leg tanks, what we usually do is do a life cycle cost analysis and compared to like a spheroid tank, which is the golf ball type tanks, and then the composite tanks, which has the concrete pedestal on the bottom, the steel tank on top. And when you start looking at life cycle costs versus rehabilitation versus building a brand new tank, you end up very similar, if not sometimes a lot cheaper to build a new one because of the amount of surface area on the leg type tanks, because that's really where your cost is. What is the surface area cost to blast it and recoat it versus a concrete pedestal, which doesn't have to be, it's maintenance free. There's no blasting and recoating. So that's where the composite tanks become much cheaper over the life cycle because all you're rehabilitating, really recoating, is just the concrete tank on top versus all the legs and everything like that. Plus the way the new tanks are designed, both spheroid and the composite tanks, they're less apt to corrode. If you look at all the edges and everything that are hard to blast, hard to recoat on the leg tanks, just the way that they're designed, they tend to corrode because they're harder to coat well. So if we were to include this, what we would propose as far as services go would be looking at a life cycle cost analysis where we look at the cost to rehabilitate it and then okay, what does a new tank cost? What is it going to cost over the next 100 years? Plus, you do have an aged asset already, so we're going to spend money most likely replacing some of the structural steel and things like that. So it's like, okay, well, do you want to spend money on trying to fix an old asset or put that money into a brand new asset that's you're starting brand new, fresh, and you're looking at rehabilitation in 20 years.
Plus, how many lawsuits have we been involved in that, rehabilitating it?
Oh, yeah. Well, it is whenever right.
We came with the idea of doing away with it for the reason that spend $400,000 on a new one, then repair that one. That's how much it costs, like around $350,000 to $400,000 to repair full job. The thing is that we have problems rehabilitating here because
We spray painted 50 cars one
Around
time.
here, they can't contain all the sand. They always have problems containing the sand. The wind
There's a
goes
lot of
blowing,
fun things I've been through.
Cover on it. So we've had issues with that. So
Yeah, I just think as this land
Just
availability is
thinking that-
on the table, we should, that's an item. Put in a new location.
painted a bunch of cars back here with the independent school district. That were unintentionally, even the cover was on, but the wind was spraying everywhere. So
What
issues.
happens to the old tank?
Recycle.
Yeah,
Is that part of the cost? I mean, we want to get rid of stuff.
yeah, we would demo it at the same time when the new one comes online. And then there's also, the other aspect is Laguna Vista. That's a very small tank, it's 75,000 gallons, and it tends to fluctuate a lot. So we really do need to, from our water model we did back in 2012, they did recommend replacing that with a 500,000 gallon tank. And so we do have that inflow water, that model available now. which we could have Teresa Nichols, do an analysis, kind of see if those tanks are really at the optimal locations.
How much?
Oh, for pricing?
Yeah. More or less. More or less.
I mean,
Don't
if we're
say
talking-
it,
if we're
don't
talking
say it,
about another
Charles.
$1 million
Huh?
tank, I mean, it'd be another 1.25 million
All right.
for the other tank.
All right.
So I mean,
I
that's kind
remember
of.
1.25, 1.5 is what we talked about before. That was
Yeah.
years back.
Life expectancy again, you mentioned 20 years, is that what you're, or we need to consider rehabilitation?
Over the life of the project, we're supposed to design around 100 years is what we expect to get out of a tank over. When we evaluate life cycle, we say 100 years. So, I mean, if you go by AWWA's definition, a steel tank has an indefinite lifespan, as long as you maintain it. That's really where the kicker comes in. And you said 20 years. With some of the higher performance coatings, obviously you're down here on the coast, you're probably looking at 15 years, 20 years. Maybe less, maybe 12, 15.
Okay.
Have we funded in the 5-year capital improvement plan, have we already set aside money for this or not?
No, it's unfunded. I mean, it's, we know we have line items in there in that 5-year plan.
Mhm.
And, but I mean, we haven't assigned, we don't have like a fund balance tied to it or anything. We'd have to, that's why we proposed putting it on the GO bond if we can on there.
Curiously, along those lines, do we throw money into, like, I have slush funds, for Christmas, so that every year Christmas isn't an emergency and therefore coming out of my emergency fund, does that make sense? So every month we put X amount of dollars for Xmas, so that when December gets here, we're ready for Xmas. Does that make sense? Do we do anything like that in our funding or finances on the annual, like kicking money for a project that we anticipate that's going to need to be done in the next 5 or 10 years? Throwing a percentage towards it, or?
Not big money, not.
No, not like, we're not throwing 500 back a year, but if we were throwing 20 into an account or 50 into an account.
We budget enough so that we can cover small projects.
Of course.
But nothing.
Just a thought.
substantial like this.
Okay.
Just to touch up for this time?
Yeah.
I could just touch it up, or what was it?
Oh, well, no, we were just going back, I guess, we're getting to the justification for a new tank versus doing another rehab here.
Can we paint it green, or John Deere green, no? Good, just to change it up a little bit.
Blue.
Blue, sorry, forgot. All right, just loosen it up a little bit while I get a coffee. You want anything?
No, thank you.
Yeah, well, the third major point here for additional projects was wastewater collection improvements. Because, we have probably a greater lift station rehab need than what's on the current request over at TWDB. And so I'm figuring we should maybe tie that expense down, and see if we can get that on the bond election as well. And at the same time, even that gravity sewer here that we're looking at for lift station 25 on 2nd Street, to get over to HEB and Walgreens, proposing to put that one on the election proposition as well. If the board's okay with including that effort in the GO bond.
So how many lift stations are you talking about?
Oh, I don't know the number off the top of my head. I mean, it's from the 5-year plan. There's 7 lift stations where we've identified rehab that they're unfunded at this point. And then, so yeah, we're talking more or less 7 lift stations. And then if there's no cost overruns on our current 18 in the plan,
No, they pretty much guaranteed that we weren't going to go over budget, right?
Right.
In the interview, they said like that only happened once.
Yeah, to be determined. But that's kind of just, as we fine tune the needs out there.
So more or less, how much?
I'm at like 1.5, 1.6 million, just on those 7. And then, well, I guess we should have some engineering there as well. Well, yeah, it's in that range.
So where are we at now? 4.5, 4? Are we putting all this in one? Is this all one bond consideration?
Yeah, have you been doing the total, Herb? I haven't. Haven't been.
Well, I've heard 1.5 twice and
Yeah.
1.
Two propositions for that one. One for the water treatment.
We got,
And then the other.
yeah, but now we're talking about tank, and I heard the Laguna Vista tank.
Yeah,
I walked in on something else, lift stations, it sounded like 7 of them.
yeah.
And you're at 1.5, 1.5, that's 3, and 1, or 1.5, like, we're at 4.5.
Well, I would say let's put the water tanks in the same proposition as water plant 1, since it's all water treatment distribution, unless we should, does it make more sense to break all that into separate items?
What do you think, Herb? What do you think, Scott? Been through a lot more of these bond elections than anybody.
They should all be bullet, item by item, Proposition 1, Proposition 2, Proposition 3.
Okay, so we just have multiple.
That's how I feel, multiple
That makes
ones to
sense.
decide.
And I want to just do what we're all on the same page with so we can stand.
Why are we asking for more? Like, if I'm a voter and I look and I see, and they need me to approve 3 different things, these guys are nuts. Like,
Because when you group them together,
Mhm.
the passage rate or fail is greater. If you combine a wastewater plant 1 with Long Island Village together as one, you have some people that want to vote for wastewater and
Yeah.
some people that don't want to vote for.
Let's take out Long Island, like, forget Long Island.
Well, I'm just grouping together 2
Yeah.
projects. If you approve project by project, to me, it specifies some people want to vote for a certain project and some people don't want to vote for a certain
But
project.
see, here's something to think about.
Yes.
If you do one proposition that's got something in it for everybody, you tend to get the votes of everybody. If it's a à la carte deal,
Okay?
you're gonna have people, well, you know, it's not gonna, and then you get a us versus them thing going on here. I think all these things are district-wide improvements and really ought to be
That's another
looked
spin.
That's,
at
And I think what
that
Scott,
way.
yeah, I think
So I look at
I
it.
can see both sides. And I think what Scott's saying is we might not have something in there for everybody
There's
in this bond, but I would be okay with either one. I just want all of us 5 to be on the same page so we can go in this election strong. And when any of us get approached, like, yeah, you definitely need to vote for X, Y, and Z or just
There's
X.
no right or wrong answer, I guess, is
I would be
It's our
more
strategy.
apt to go with that suggestion.
all or nothing.
Yeah, well, 1, keep Long Island out of it. That,
Well, I was
that's
using a
totally
bad
different.
example. I was just
So,
using today.
Just anything that has to do with water district, we are selling water infrastructure improvement to
yeah.
them. I don't think people, I mean, knowing what I knew before I was on the board, I wouldn't have understood any of that if I had to sit on a proposition and read it. I think that if you just sold me on improving the infrastructure because we are not at proper, we're pushing up against load and that's all is one, I get it. I don't think people are they're capable of knowing it, but they don't have enough
They don't
information, nor the inclination generally, to understand each of the issues and make an informed vote on it.
I think it's,
Sometimes when you have a large bond that has a lot of
They see a
different
big number.
projects in there, people assume
$29 million or
that
something.
you might not be, maybe as efficient with the money.
Well, except, let me take exception to that. The island a few years back, they did that big bond issue, fire station, park. I mean, it was truly a à la carte deal. And you got, well, I like this, but I don't like that. Well, this is all water and sewer related.
Yeah, if you want to do that, then let's do 2. Let's throw one thing out there that's for $30 million. And then let's put all the stuff we really want in one for $10 million. That way they tell us no on the 30, but they approve us on
are we
the
being
10, right?
videotaped right
That's
now?
what- I'm just saying, I
Tone
mean,
it down.
that sort of thing, that thinking is difficult. I think it's just.
Well, clearly, we're discussing strategy, because we obviously want to get the daggum thing funded and passed, and it's really what do we feel strongest about is the most appropriate strategy. And in my opinion, it would be things that, we're going to prioritize these things in a workshop like this one, and then decide what makes the cut, what doesn't make the cut, and then the only real decision is, do we put it all on one, or do we give them 2 options? I mean, in sales, I don't want to give you more than 3 options, because then you might just not opt to do anything, So an A or B is as far as I'd ever want to go if we walk down that path.
And
But I can see supporting just one bond with only things that we all feel strongly about, including for this election, and then kick the other ones down the road.
I mean, if it was me and I saw one people don't have anything to judge it against. So if you see something for 15, or you see something for 5, let's say you only see 5, you're going to think, what do they need $5 million for? If you see one for 15, you're going to be like, what do they need $15 million for? So I just would hate to put like a $15 million bond out there and a $5 million bond, and they only approve a wastewater tower. and we're stuck without the big dog, right? You know, they're gonna say no to the big and maybe say yes to the little, but you're gonna have a harder time getting them to say yes to both.
Let's put it all in one.
I'll put all in one, and then it's up to us to sell it to them.
But let's not just ask for everything. I mean, this isn't Santa Claus, you know, like,
The water towers
what do we
are
really need?
a benefit for everybody because they're all interconnected.
Okay.
There's no.
And we really need 2 water towers, or do we just really need 1? 2? LV, we really need?
Right. You know, that's a.
Imagine a nice big golf
75,000
ball
gallon
water
tank.
tower.
It's severely
Fills up pretty
undersized.
quick and then,
Imagine a nice golf ball
you gotta
water
turn off the
tower out
pump
there.
or we'll close it out
Would be nice, but
or fix the altitude.
Hold on, what makes my shower pressure better? The new water tower, if I get,
oh my goodness, tangent.
New
No.
water tower will give you better
What?
pressure. 'cause
Eat some
this
fruit,
one-
Adam. So what do we need? 2 towers and a treatment facility, is that it?
Yeah, water plant 1, 2 towers.
That's the most.
And
I got the
then
attention span of a 5-year-old,
And then
but
wastewater
you're
side,
losing
the
me.
remainder of lift stations and this gravity main on 100. That's basically
Yeah,
what we're trying to whip it all
wastewater.
together.
He just went fast there. So 2, I got
A water plant?
treatment facility,
Yeah.
and
then
2 towers.
2 water towers, and then about 7 lift stations.
Oh, that's right,
On
the
the
7.
wastewater
And we need all of that, or, I mean, what's our thoughts from the board members that's
Depends on
been
how
here?
if we want to start.
Yes. It's
Need
all
all-
been discussed and ongoing and pushed along and
Yeah.
pushed along.
And it's cutting time, we need to get it done. 7 lifts that aren't included in our current project that have to do with the, how many lifts do we have in that bad boy, 12, 13?
Yeah, we have 18, well, 19, unfortunately.
So 19 there under that, and then 7 under this bond, along with 2 towers?
Yeah, maybe 6, yeah.
Okay, and that's going to be a grand total of
Roughly
20? What's the water treatment facility? We're just ballparking.
8.
Ballparking,
8?
we had 8.
And I just counted 4.5 for towers, so that's 12 and a half.
15.
Yeah, 15 million.
Yeah, we'll be approaching that.
Oh, yeah, that's easy. So what's the taxes going up? Like, that's the formula I want to
Finance
know.
guy will be here to discuss that next.
Okay, great.
15.6 million for proposition 2.
Mhm.
We didn't issue it, it dropped our tax rate 4 cents. So that's
4 cents?
Yeah, that was my logic for the 15.6 million being a 4-cent increase.
And 4 cent equates, I like the math he was doing there, but what's your 4 cent per
It would
$1,000?
double your current tax rate.
4 per 100.
Yeah,
4 per
4 cents per $100 valuation.
Alright.
So like, what were they paying, like $160, or for a?
So, yeah.
$100,000 was $40.
Yeah, 200,000, you're looking at $80.
Yeah, so,
$6.07.
200,000, you're looking at
At the
$80?
current
Yes.
rate, at
the value
the
of your
current
home.
rate,
Right.
it's more or less about
So if you're
a
half million,
$200,000 home would be about $80.
200 bucks.
And
Alright.
if this proposition were to
Which
go
isn't the
through,
majority of our.
double that rate, let's say if he were estimating 4 cents, so that would double it, so instead of paying $80 on a $200,000 home, now you pay $160.
And forever?
Per year.
Per year?
the 20-year note.
Per year,
15 or 20-year note.
And depending on how.
Until the bond is paid off.
Right.
So let's rephase that, right, until the bond is paid.
And when that bond
Yes.
gets
Just
paid,
for the
it drops
repayment.
down, that's why our.
When you
rate
pay your house off, it
8
doesn't go
cents, now
away.
it's 4.
What do we?
See, I think we can show
Payment.
the
15 to
frugality
20,
of the
20.
district in that this past year, we actually lowered taxes
Yes.
10% because our values are up.
Yes.
So we can tell the
Massage
people
that,
that,
yeah.
as
You
your
may
rates,
be able to
as
borrow
your
money
appraisals
without
go up,
increasing.
those
Right.
rates are gonna come down and, we've
Right,
got the
there's
history
the
to
truth
prove
in the
it.
taxation law, so we can only charge the tax based on the debt that we have to prepay. And that's all it's gonna be.
So, the whole argument that I learned tonight, right? Ratepayer, what was that called? You did a great presentation earlier. So it's tax, it's a bond that we're talking
There's
about.
revenue bond
Thank you.
and there's general obligation bond.
So general obligation is what we're
Obligation
discussing.
bond is financed through property taxes. Revenue bond is paid for from sale, in this case would be water sales.
Okay, so, when I'm talking to the guy that's arguing with me, hey, we need to do this. So either you can pay for it as through your water bill going up.
Through rate sales.
You know, you want to pay $50 a month, or you want to pay $160 a year? The $160 a year is a bit or discount if you do the math.
But we have a capacity to borrow money. In other words, it's determined
We can't
by-
borrow 15, or
You have to
yeah,
be
it's
in
like
your
getting a
debt
mortgage.
ratio. You have to be in your debt ratio
Yeah.
to be able to borrow.
I got you.
However you borrow the money, whether it be on general obligation or revenue bonds. But for $15 million, if this project is needed and we say, fine, it doesn't work on a general obligation bond, the board can then say, we're going to pass it on a revenue bond, and it will be paid for out of daily or monthly rates.
Yeah, and then plus, like our current revenue commitments, I mean, are pretty tied up until 2028. That's when we'll pay off a good chunk. And being able to look at more revenue notes without an increase.
Of our revenue bond.
But, you know, we'd have to wait till 2028, 2029,
That's
you know, and
pretty
that's.
long. But we could refinance. There's a lot of options,
Yeah.
but let's not get into that.
All right. Anybody against putting it all on one?
No, I think that's the way it should be.
I agree.
Okay?
When do we discuss more specifically the Long Island?
Well, I think we
With
need the
finance guy.
information from our financial people.
Yeah, with the finance guy, that's another.
No, it's.
So we'll have, wasn't that on this timetable? What's our next step with these?
Well, the next step would be to authorize the engineer's report, which that's why Bruce Nichols is attending to prepare that task authorization. Seeing if we can get it on the ballot on the 10th, so we try to get that wrapped up, you know, by Thursday or so. if possible.
And that's this, not Long Island, right? So we're talking about this agenda item.
Right, I mean, if anything from Long Island, it would just be an attachment from whatever Civil Engineering is doing. Nothing more, nothing.
Yeah, we can talk about that in a minute, but this, yeah, he needs permission to move forward, right?
Yeah.
And that costs what?
Well, that's where I'm figuring we have to develop.
That's what we
this
submitted this
deep
week.
right now.
Okay, be good to us. All right.
See, I think the best way to do the Long Island Village would be through a revenue bond.
A
That
PID.
way you
A
don't have
PID
the other
and
taxpayers.
It's on
Create the
their
PID.
deal. And bill them accordingly, and they can pass their own,
Right.
and off they go, and it's off the books. It's a whole, I don't want to get into it right now. That's a whole nother issue, dealing with the bond issue and getting all that involved.
But they want us to pass a bond. They want it.
No, they just,
No,
they
no,
they
no,
just
they want us to
want
loan them the
project
money,
done.
right?
They just
Yeah, they want the cheap
project
money.
done.
Yeah, they're coming to us for
So,
2.5% interest
We
rate.
need to talk to the finance guy and
Right or wrong?
and do a property investment diversion.
Is it possible to do both? Because if you hit him with that, I mean, we don't have to discuss it now, because we're not even on that
No.
agenda item.
Let's keep
so
on going.
I'll stay in order.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think we've pretty much addressed all the issues where I think we understand.
Sweet.
Proceed, correct?
So we get a motion to,
Don't need a motion.
oh, it's a
Meeting
workshop.
adjourned,
Hit the gavel.
7:16.